Smile is the latest horror film from Paramount Pictures and is directed by Parker Finn. After witnessing a bizarre traumatic incident involving a patient, Dr. Rose Cotter starts experiencing frightening occurrences that she can't explain. Rose must confront her troubling past in order to survive and escape her horrifying new reality. And no, I will not do the smile face throughout this review because at this point it's kind of cliched. So if I've had to describe my experience with this movie in one sense, I would say the fact that this horror movie isn't life-changing, however, it fundamentally does everything quite well and therefore makes it a pretty worthy Halloween horror movie experience. It's gonna satiate your appetite for horror, get you geared up for Halloween, and I think you're gonna walk out being happy that you watched it. So let me get into this movie. What did I like so much about it? As I mentioned, the fundamentals of this movie are quite solid. Whether it be the performances that are on par, whether it be the scares that are on par, the overall plot and story and aspects as to what makes this a horror film, those are all also on par. The sound design is also worth praising here because it really helps make these scares worth seeing. And the movie also finds ways to get creative in certain spots that really make the film feel original to a point. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that this is a fully original film, but I will say there are beats within it that make it somewhat unique and a bit of a different flavor than what you're probably used to seeing. And even some of the more familiar beats I don't necessarily mind because they're executed well in this movie and really make the experience quite good. Delving a little bit into that, the one thing I really enjoyed in this film is this playing off of the idea that either this person, Rose, is losing her mind or she's actually being haunted by something. The movie kind of treads on this line throughout it, trying to get you to ask that same question, like, okay, is she actually mentally insane or is she actually being haunted by something? It actually keeps you guessing quite a bit, and it's been done before in movies like Hereditary. However, this movie takes a flavor of that and makes it its own. And what's really cool is you really don't find out till the very end what the answer to that question is, and I thought it made for some really interesting bait throughout the movie. And additionally, I really enjoyed how this movie put its own spin into the horror genre in a couple of different ways. Even just the idea of taking something as pleasant as a smile and turning it on its head to make it really creepy and unsettling, I think that's really brilliant. And when you combine it with the awesome marketing campaign that this movie had, if you guys haven't seen the clips of fans standing up and smiling at baseball games, especially the Yankees games, I highly recommend checking it out. But I've never seen a movie take something as fundamental as that and really turning it into a horror element that gets really inside your head. The biggest compliment I can give this movie is before it even ended, I was maybe one of 3 people in the theater at this point. I was actually looking around because I thought I was seeing things. And when a movie can have strong imagery throughout its runtime to the point where it's affecting you immediately, as it was for me in my theater, I think that's pretty impressive. Having said that, did that imagery stick with me as I drove home and as I got into my house alone? Not really, so take that with some kind of grain of salt. But the fact that the movie got my eyes to be playing tricks on me while watching it, I was impressed. And additionally, I really love the intensity that this movie brought. If you're worried about your heartbeat being too slow, this movie will certainly get it pumping for you because it kind of steps on the gas pedal really hard in some scenes and it really lands well. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that the movie is extremely well paced because it does have some slow parts, but I will say the parts where it really gets going and picks up, it gets you. And just when the movie kind of gets into a lull, that kind of jump starts your heart and your experience a little bit and really gets you back on board with everything. Now, what did I not enjoy so much about this film? To be honest, I think there are a few too many jump scares for my liking. Don't get me wrong, the jump scares were extremely effective and they got me to jump out of my seat a few times and they weren't too annoying. However, I just thought there was too many of them. It's to the point where I think that the movie's horror elements relied on jump scares a little bit too much because honestly, if you take out those jump scares, this gets kind of relegated to more of a creepy film than a horror film. And if you want to know what, in my opinion, the difference between creepy and horror are, check out the video linked down in the description below. It's a really short video. It'll explain it. But without those jump scares, I think this more turns into a creepy movie that sort of sticks with you for a couple of days or even while you're sitting in the theater. You're going to remember the images from this movie because a lot of them are pretty disturbing. In additionally, I wasn't a huge fan of the character relationships throughout the film. For example, Rose has a boyfriend that she's engaged to. Some might call it a fiance. I didn't for 1 second buy into the fact that they even loved each other, let alone liked each other. The chemistry between the two was non-existent. The relationship felt wooden, and it made me really question why their relationship was in the movie at all. I think the relationship between her and the character Joel was far more interesting, and it was actually far more exposed throughout the movie and made for some really entertaining times. And the movie actually gets really efficient in that relationship between Rose and Joel because it just just kind of touches upon what they've had in the past, but it doesn't really go into many details. And I really like that the movie focused on what it was good at, which is more of the creepy and horror elements of this experience. So friends, in the end, I'm gonna have to give this movie a 7 out of 10. I thought it was a really satiating horror experience, and I definitely recommend seeing it. It trends on this line between horror and creepy. I think it's more of a creepy movie, which is totally fine. It'll still satiate your appetite for some Halloween scares. So if you're a horror fan, go and see it. Even if you're just a casual horror fan, I still recommend seeing it. Thank you so much for watching another movie review. If you found this or liked this or thought it was helpful, I'd be honored if you consider clicking the like button, clicking these end cards up above, or the links down in the description below for your viewing pleasure. Once again, I've been Bryce, and until next time, have a great day.